Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of this resolution, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow, we'll welcome the President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, to address the joint session of Congress. It's fitting that the leader of the Ukrainian people will speak in this chamber, where over the centuries our own democracy has grown and thrived. Today, we know that freedom and democracy in Ukraine are under threat. And so with this resolution, we will send a clear signal to President Poroshenko and to the people of Ukraine that we stand by them. America stands with them. I visited Ukraine a few months ago with my friend, the Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Congressman Royce, and everywhere we went, we heard the same thing. The people of Ukraine do not want Russian interference in their country. Ukraine is an independent nation. It is not part of another country. And the people of Ukraine have a right to make a determination for themselves as to what their policies would be, without intimidation from Mr. Putin or anybody else. This hit home, especially for me, when I visited a synagogue in eastern Ukraine. My 4 grandparents were born in Ukraine. 2 older men at this synagogue approached me to talk about the Russian threat. Over the last century, their eyes had seen the tide of history roll in and out of Ukraine. They had fought against Hitler's army. They had lived under the yoke of Soviet tyranny. They had witnessed democracy spread across Eastern Europe. And now they were looking east at a new threat on the horizon. "Don't abandon us," one of them said. America is very, very important. If anything, that threat has only grown worse in recent months. Separatist forces, bolstered by President Putin, continue to wreak havoc across eastern Ukraine. Russian weapons have brought down a plane full of innocent civilians. Thousands of Russian troops have spilled over the border, trampling on Ukrainian sovereignty. Mr. Poroshenko comes to us with his country on the brink. With this measure, we say to him, we support Ukraine. We support the right of Ukraine to determine its own future. We are also saying to our friends and allies around the world that this Russian aggression must not stand and that democracies must unite to meet this challenge. And finally, we're saying to Mr. Putin, if you continue to threaten your neighbors, if you continue to sow unrest, if you continue to defy the will of the global community, you will isolate your country and your actions will have consequences. I should also add that I think that the NATO alliance, the credibility of the NATO alliance, is really hanging in the balance. For the past 20 or 25 years, we have proceeded on the fact that Russia was not a threat and that Russia indeed in many ways was a partner. That's no longer, unfortunately, the situation. Russia is an adversary, and the NATO alliance has to adjust to that. The equation that NATO has to adjust to has changed because of the actions of Mr. Putin in Ukraine. And so we have to make sure that our NATO allies feel strengthened. We have to make sure that the countries bordering Russia and bordering the rest of Europe feel that they are not being intimidated. And countries like Ukraine and Georgia and Moldova, countries like that, ought to be free to exert their independent thinking and what they feel is best for their country and not being intimidated by Mr. Putin. So I urge my colleagues to support this resolution, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves